Okay, it's now 6 o'clock, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would anyone like to make a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
All in favor?
Unanimous.
And then, in regards to old business, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the December 17th meeting?
I'll move to approve the minutes from the December 17th meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Unanimous.
And then I now call to order a public hearing to consider TA-05-25 sign ordinance text amendment section 9.30F, 9.04, 9.29F, 9.393, and 9.407B.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Sean Daniels. I'm the zoning administrator with the city. And this particular item is regards to some sign application amendments, the community development, pertaining specifically the planning and zoning and code enforcement have been working together to try to amend some things that the code enforcement have seen out in the field. And this would just make everything a little bit more clear and up to date, especially with the practices that we already are doing today. So without further ado, our first section is regards to 9.03, which is application information, and this is regards to the review fee. Now, inside our city ordinance, our review fee is $25. But after doing some extensive research around jurisdictions around ours, like Carrollton, Carroll County, Douglasville, Douglas County, Paulding, they have all increased their review fee. So we have proposed to increase our review fee to $50, just like other jurisdictions within our city or around our city.
Sean, is that the only change to that?
For, yes, section 9.03,
Okay,
yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Do
And
we
then-
need to vote on each after the public hearing or no? Okay.
We can do them all together, can we?
Yeah, it's all related, so you can vote on it.
Okay.
Good deal. And, the second section is regards to section point 9.04, which is time for consideration and issuance, mainly for a sticker or other device bearing the sign permit number shall be affixed to the sign structure. After working with code enforcement and mainly the manager for code enforcement, he was with the city of Douglasville for 20 years, and they have done something similar. And he said that after 2 or 3 years, that those stickers start fading away due to weather. So since I've been here for about 1.5 years, we haven't been implementing that. And we just want to go ahead and have the zoning ordinance reflect our current practices that we are currently doing today.
And that's 45 days.
Yes,
Without a sticker.
without a sticker.
You're just striking the stick.
Yeah, we're just striking.
Right. That's all the changes. Striking it. Do you want to go through them all, or can we ask questions in between?
You can ask questions.
Okay. So if code enforcement is going out and they're looking at signs, if there's not a sticker, how do they go about knowing if something's permitted correctly or not?
So we have everything digitally. We have a share file that we have all the signs, even some in the past from 2022. So if there's any signs that are up for questioning, we can just pull that up. I usually go out into the field and conduct inspections. I have my iPad. So if there's anything that's up for discussion, I'll just pull it up and I can have conversations with the business owner right on site.
Okay. That's helpful.
Now, section 9.29 is regarding wall signs. And after, again, working with code enforcement, we want to go ahead and add a little more, I guess, a border to all vinyl signs. Now, a vinyl sign is it's a really thin piece of material, like a metal material. And as I've been here, we've been seeing a lot of businesses want to install those. They're cheaper, but after a year or two, or maybe even like a weather event, the sides of those weather signs or those signs start to either bend, or the signs like in the corner starts to crack a little bit. So after talking to code enforcement and seeing some other signs within the city, that border would also be aesthetically pleasing, will be a little bit more durable for those business owners, and they wouldn't have to replace those every 5 to 6 years if anything happens to those signs.
When you
And
say border, are you talking about like a printed border? Because those that are, you know how the sign's printed on metal. Is it a printed border, or is it an actual like wooden or metal border?
wooden or metal border. And our second, thank you. And our, if you look at this slide behind you all, these are 3 businesses within our city, mainly downtown. The 2 on the left are the ones without any borders, and the one on the right does have a border. Again, this does help the aesthetics for those signs, but it's just a little bit more durable. As you can see, the one in the middle is starting to have some type of integrity, or losing its integrity, especially on that top right corner, and those screws can sometimes come out. So
You're
this
talking about
is,
the rough law firm?
yes,
one?
ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. So this will just help just mitigate any type of damage or anything, especially for the long term. And we can just have those be, again, aesthetically pleasing, as well as those borders only being either black, white, gray, or tan. And that's just to have some uniformity within our city.
Does it show what that border be made out of? Because going back to that sign, like the rough law firm, right? If I put a tan border around that and it's made out of the same material, I don't know what changes, what happens in the right corner, per se.
Yes, that's a good question. We can add some verbiage on there, especially inside our city ordinance that says maybe a wooden border, something a little bit more durable. I can do a little bit more research on what kind of borders will help long term. But the one on the right is a wooden border. It's a 4-inch border.
Yeah, it looks like it's holding up and it's, can easily be painted, to keep it visibly pleasing.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Sean, can you return to the previous slide where you outlined the requirements?
Yes. So the first requirement is borders must be either black, white, gray, or tan. The second requirement is any wall signs that are up to 10 square feet shall have a border that's at least 1 inch. Any signs that are 10 to 50 square feet shall have a border up to 2 inches, at least 2 inches. And a wall sign that's 50 to 100 square feet shall have a border that's at least 3 inches. And then lastly, any signs, wall signs that are 100 square feet or more shall have a border at least 4 inches.
I think it would be a good idea to add, has been suggested, that the border be constructed of, and I don't, you talk to your engineers, whether it's aluminum, PVC,
Wood.
some type of
yeah.
material that's gonna hold up to the weather.
Something that's durable and that can be kept up with.
Yeah, definitely. As written, I mean, you could just have like a printed border.
Right,
and
you
the
just
same
print the same material with a border.
Yeah, or just even like leave a margin on the sign, right? I actually don't think that if you move to that rough law firm, like, I mean, it's not marked as a border, but I could see an interpretation of what's written here where this sign doesn't technically violate that code, right? Because there is like a substantial margin around the place where the actual like writing is on this second sign.
In terms of the border itself, so you're saying that if it doesn't have a border, could you just elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, like,
So I can get it.
I mean, it's not delineated, but there's a margin between the edge of the sign and where the writing appears, right?
Mhm.
So depending on how you interpret the code that is written there without any material requirements, then technically, like, I think this would actually continue to meet those requirements, depending on the interpretation.
Right.
So I think that adding the materials piece is, like my colleagues up here have said, is really important if we're trying to improve the kind of like aesthetic requirement here and make the requirements clear.
Yes, ma'am.
The flat rock looks like it's framed.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, every sign has a border, so if we call it that, there would be more room for interpretation, but I think like you said it, it's almost like if we wanna call it a frame or something, I don't know.
Right. Okay. Now,
Can I also ask, I'm sorry, before we
Yeah.
move on, those requirements, once they are voted in, how long will business owners have to comply with their current signage and putting that frame or border or whatever we're gonna call it, how long will they have to do that?
right, so,
It's gonna apply to either replacement signs or new signs.
How long does, like, if I have a sign, if I'm a business with a sign, do I have to reapply periodically for for approval for that sign, or is it only under replacement circumstances?
only for replacement or reface.
Okay, thank you.
Now, section 9.39 is regards to temporary signs. Subsection 3 is regarding setbacks. And again, after discussing some things that code enforcement has been looking at and inspecting out in the field, and I've been getting some calls regarding what kind of signs should be placed out of that right of way, that 10-foot right of way area of any in the property lines. We just wanted to go ahead and add all signs, because it's been times in the past where some people have came in and said, okay, we want to put a bandit sign or a law sign out in the street, and if we put it out of that right of way, that public right of way area, people might can't see it. But we have to allude to them that, let's say we're going out of a commercial lot and we're trying to merge in or go into a parkway, and if the sign or a post sign is within that setback area, it'll be hard. It'll be in that line of sight of visibility, and that could help cause some type of wreck or anything like that. So this will just help if anybody tries to merge within a street, that those signs wouldn't be in the way. If that makes sense.
Sean, I'm sorry to keep bugging you. So this, all signs, this is still only applying to temporary signs, right? Because it's the
Correct.
only part of the code there. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Now, all signs can be inside the right of way, but after again discussing with code enforcement, they've had some problems with temporary signs, post signs, lawn signs, things like that, just being inside that right of way area and preventing ongoing drivers trying to get on a road, and it's been blocking their line of sight. So this will just add some uniformity within the city. So lastly, section 9.40 is again regarding temporary sign standards. This is specifically regarding inflatable objects. We wanted to go ahead and add some verbiage regarding for safety and inspection purposes by city staff. Inflatable objects must be erected only on the ground. We've had some signs or some inflatable signs go up in the past, and they've put them either on their roof or on an object. And barring any type of weather event or high gust of winds, that the things that are tethering those object signs onto the roof have snapped off, and that could cause some type of safety hazard where that sign or what is we use to harness or to hold those signs into place come off and hopefully not land or hit somebody or somebody's vehicles or property. So this will just help for any staff, myself, or building when we do go out and do inspections. We don't have to go on a jib crane and go on a roof and access those inflatable signs. They will just be placed on the ground safely, and if it's something that needs to be corrected, we can go ahead and tell the business owner.
Can we make language suggestions to the way that this is written?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I think objects must be erected only on the ground. I think it would make more sense if it says inflatable objects can only be erected on the ground.
Okay.
Sorry, former English professor up here
No
trying
problem
to
at
like
all.
make our
No
language very
problem.
precise.
Did the commissioners have any other questions or concerns regarding these proposals? Thank you.
Can
We
I
just
ask you
need to open
one-
up for a public hearing at this point.
Just one last question before we go to the public hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
If we are, if we do vote for that border, to approve that, and you add language to it, will that come back to us for another vote around adding that, or that's something that can be made without our input?
Depends on how you make the motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, you could move to approve it with changes or clarification as to the border and allow that to go straight to council, or you could ask it to come back to you.
And just to know any changes that you all are proposing, I'll go ahead and make those and send them over to you first thing tomorrow morning.
Thank you. At this time, we're gonna open for a meeting. Open the meeting for public comment. If you wish to speak, come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone who wishes to speak in favor? Okay, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition of the application or the amendment? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I don't, it might take me a second to figure out how to word this.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to approve the text amendments with changes to 9.29F discussed during this commission meeting, and changes to 9.407B made in accordance with our conversation here today.
Can I clarify that that would be 903F, leaving 9.04 out for a revision, 9.29F, 9.393, and 9.40 for approval?
Was 9.29F, that was the border one, right?
Called the wrong one.
Yes, that was the wall sign border.
Okay, and 9.407B, that was the one where I just made like a language suggestion. So I make a motion to approve the text amendments with the changes that we discussed here to 9.29F and 9.407B. Did I do that right?
Would anyone like to second? I'll second. All in favor? Unanimous.
Good evening, Commissioners. Nina Shabazz, Community Development Director. And I am here to present a text amendment to modify the smoke shops, tobacco stores, and medical marijuana dispensaries and add a new proposed section, 8.23, vape shops, and a definition of vape shops to section 8 definitions. I think that should be 13. I think I have to correct that Roman numeral. Definitions is actually 13. Thanks. So this kind of goes back to the discussion that we had a workshop November 19th. And I solicited the commissioner's feedback on that particular section with Andrew requesting that I remove the verbiage of medical marijuana dispensary. After discussion with staff and also our city attorney, we did leave that medical marijuana dispensaries in just because we wanted to make sure we addressed it should someone come in seeking to open up a shop with medical marijuana, vape, and that sort of thing. So basically the purpose is that reviewing our text amendments, we know that, new uses kind of pop up. And so we have to kind of address those in our ordinance, especially if our ordinance either doesn't address it, doesn't define it, or it's just not there. And so obviously in this case, vape shops was not there, but we decided to do some clarifying of that particular section. And so that's what you see in the red there behind you. I don't know if you. So you can see what differs. Section .822, we added the language vape shops where it was initially wasn't addressed. The other thing that we did is that we increased the distance where vape shops can operate. You can see before on section .822, notwithstanding any other provision of this title to the contrary, smoke shops, tobacco stores, medical marijuana dispensaries. Down at section 1A, smoke shops, tobacco stores shall not be located within 300 feet. We've added a distance of 1,500 feet. And then we also added hospital and urgent care. So you can kind of look and see, if you go down to the red text, you'll see similar language, but with the addition of the additional 800 feet in distance from property line to property line. And we've also added urgent care in terms of the sensitive uses that it cannot be within a certain distance from. And so we also added the definition of a vape shop means any business whose principal product line for retail sale is alternative nicotine products, vape juice, or vape products. For the purpose of this chapter, principal shall mean that alternative nicotine products, vape juice, or vape products constitute at least 25% of the business's aggregate retail sales. And going down to the other section that I added to our definitions, chapter 13, 13.01 under definitions, I added the new definition of vape, kind of defining what vapes are, vape shop is, any kind of product or paraphernalia that is associated with vape is now has a section in our definition section.
I have a quick question. So does this change from the 300 feet to the 1,500 feet only apply to new or transfer of business to a different business owner?
Well, yeah, this applies to any kind of new license that would come in, because obviously all the rest of the shops are grandfathered in, as are the signs that you all mentioned. You know, this is only for new signs that come in and new businesses that want to open up a vape shop or a smoke shop.
And if I could add maybe some history to why this is coming up. A while back, we used to have a downtown overlay district, which was basically your historical area right here. And there were a number of uses that were not allowed in that district, in your downtown, but were allowed in other parts of the city. These are part of well, we didn't know what a vape was, I think, at that time period, and vapes didn't exist. But there were a number of other uses that were not allowed. Well, our zoning ordinance was updated several years ago, and the downtown overlay district sort of disappeared. We no longer refer to a downtown overlay district. We do define our is it CBD?
CBD and then
CBD is basically the same, pretty much the same area. So that's one reason you see some changes here, that these uses aren't allowed in this downtown historical area.
Yeah, when I was reading this earlier, it said CBD, and I was like, I'm
Central
very,
Business District.
Central Business
Thank you.
District.
I know, it can mean something else, so we
That's right.
It sure
So-
can.
In 2024, we had a number of applications for vape shops, and I don't think, at least I haven't seen them this year, but last year we had just back-to-back applications, and council really did not like them, and they didn't like them being right on top of each other. I mean, the same shopping center, there'd be multiple.
Right. And I thought we had spoken at a time about maybe doing what Carrollton had done.
We have, and I think there's been alternates talked about, so that's why, I mean, it's here for discussion of which direction you want to go. I think there are some that would like it to be completely banned from the city. There's others that wouldn't. And there's different ways of doing that.
There's certainly enough of them.
This doesn't ban anything. So vaping, I don't know what we're talking about. Vaping, I think we're acting like that's specific to tobacco. Is that,
No, it would
Not on this
have to fall
definition.
within, if we're going to regulate it, we've got to define what it is, right?
right?
So this would define what we consider vapes to be. And it may be an ever-changing thing.
goes beyond
so-
that.
Well, we're not defining what vapes are. We're defining what a vape shop is specifically, which has
Look
a
at Section V.
principal sales amount related to the sale of alternative nicotine products, which don't necessarily, that doesn't have to be,
If you go down
you
to
know.
section V, it defines vapes.
And these are definitions that have kind of been tested other places. We didn't invent any of this language.
Mhm.
We borrowed and stole from some different places, but
So I get the desire to be restrictive. I understand that. I think that when you define a vape shop, this is like if McDonald's were considered a coffee shop because 25% of their aggregate sales, that doesn't resonate with anybody. That's not how anything works outside of something like this. McDonald's is a fast food restaurant. Starbucks is a coffee shop, and they're those for a reason. Because Starbucks surpasses 50% of their aggregate sales in coffee, and McDonald's doesn't. So I think if we continue to create ordinance or policy which sort of like allows us to define things in 3 or 4 ways, we're going to have all these overlapping zones that we can't ever adhere to. That is really my concern.
I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, we have to look at those things when someone comes in And okay, I'll give you an example of why we come back and do these text amendments. Someone came in and they wanted to do a heavy equipment rental. Somehow they got, X out of the zoning ordinance. So I had Whitney do some research because Kubota had just come in and they were a heavy equipment rental. They indicated that for their business license, that it was a retail shop. We have to make calls in terms of, okay, retail, what are you selling, shirts and jackets and whatever? And so once they come in and define it, we start asking questions in terms of, okay, what is your business model? And so we have to make a call saying, okay, well, you're not necessarily retail. Yes, you have a retail component, but you are a heavy equipment rental. You're not selling these. Some of it is sales, but the majority of the lion's share based off of your business model is equipment rental. Home Depot they rent out equipment, but they're not considered a heavy equipment rental business. And so that's why when we look at some of these definitions, look at how other jurisdictions are defining them, regulating them, and, how they're processing these applications, we have to kind of make those same judgment calls
I
because things
understand.
change so often.
I understand. That was my point. If Home Depot, if we lowered the threshold to equipment rental as a percentage of aggregate sales to 25 or 15 or 10%, then we could define Home Depot as equipment rental. And that's what I think we should avoid.
How would you avoid that if someone came in tomorrow and
I would just set it at 50%. That's how I would avoid it.
So you're suggesting 50%?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll second Andrew's concern. Honestly, when I saw 25% here, I thought that there might be some gas station convenience stores who mainly sell lots of disposable vapes that could easily fall into that 25% category. And I don't know if we want to discourage, or I don't know if the purpose is to also discourage that, but I do see the potential for a lot of businesses who are not considering vape shops to fall into that 25% category. And to find themselves classified as something that they aren't.
Right, and you're right about it. We had that discussion because, okay, when we have storefronts and we tell them you can't have more than 25% of your storefront with signs, that's something we can quantify. We can go out there, half of the glass is covered, that's 50%. And so that is one of the things that we kind of, okay, what if they have a display shelf over here for vape shops and then over here, and it's kind of sprinkled out, but it's a smoke shop per se, or they're selling tobacco and stuff for pipes and whatnot. So it is one of those things that we had to kind of look at and see how we want to kind of quantify. So we looked at how other jurisdictions were quantifying, and I mean, if we want to say 50%, then I think that's fair as well. But we just wanted to bring the discussion and at least let you all know how we came to the 25%.
So let me give an example. So, for example, if someone's bringing in a liquor store, and right now it's across the way from a children's gathering place, by putting it at 50%, all they would have to have is 45%, and they could carry 45% stock in there and vapes, and it would fall under the ordinance.
Well, it depends because, I mean, the liquor licensing section and the package store is something separate. It's completely, it's not really germane. I know what you're saying is not germane to what we're saying because the package store has its own set of very, I'm not going to say hard, to develop it's quite an undertaking. And so, I think that is because there's so many other models that came before us, no one's going to open up a package store with the number of inventory that you have to carry to be considered a package store. Those are set guidelines. And so, right now we're looking at 25% because, vape stores is not necessarily something that's regulated by the state. You don't have to go through a state licensing necessarily the way you do with a liquor license. And so that's why we're having this discussion. We're able to kind of set those parameters.
So I was going to say the difference between what we're doing in regards to a categorical shop and distance is that at a state level, you're looking at like substance specific legislation. So the things that are in, especially after the Farm Bill, so THC versus CBD versus tobacco. I think that's probably where we're going to be forced to move eventually. And so I would be hesitant to commit to anything defining through the context of a vape shop right now. But to me, this needs, I don't have a super major problem with this other than that percentage. But I think like a broader approach to, and I sent this in on November
19th.
something like that, through email. I think we're eventually going to need like a broader approach to these types of shops. And that goes along with saying, I think when you all said we need to define what the vape shop is, I think that's what I'm getting at. It needs to be a broader approach.
So when you say broader approach, in terms of how we're defining it, because the definition that it's put up there is kind of industry standard. Are you saying that is not? Is it vague? Is it ambiguous? Or what about that in terms of, because I mean, it does cover a lot of things: hookahs, electronic bongs, that kind, e-cigarettes. So
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that by that definition, it reaches into new types of businesses that are opening for like substance-based business. So they're not trying to be like a vape shop. They're trying to be like one. Luckily, we have it separated, a medical marijuana dispensary. But somebody who's selling CBD, somebody who's selling THC. So that is a far-reaching definition that I think will ultimately require more detail. But not the definition through the way that we contextualize what shops are. In other words, what is a medical marijuana dispensary? What is a vape shop? What is a tobacco shop, and so on?
I think the tobacco shop is defined. I just didn't. The alphabet is just gone in alphabetical order, so that's why it's in the section under V, because there's literally nothing there under V, and so now there's a new definition under V.
Can you scroll back down to the first page that you?
Right, I mean, based on today and what we know today, we need to define these things so that we can try to avoid what happened already, which is there wasn't clear definition, and now we've got several of them on top of each other.
Right, and it may be that citizens want, say THC to be further from a school than they want tobacco to be. But if we use vape shop, then we're allowing the word vape to reach into those different things, and we're going to have to regulate them the same way, and we may not want to do that.
Got it.
I also wanted to make the point, because I really agree with something that Andrew brought up at the last time we discussed this, which is, I know you had said that you had consulted with Kevin, and you'd had a conversation about leaving medical marijuana dispensaries in there, and I think that there are two issues that I see with that, and part of it kind of continuing on your argument, they're different substances, and we may want to regulate them differently. I also see nothing here about CBD, legal CBD distributors, and I know I have seen in other cities and other areas that CBD distribution is also an issue that citizens are concerned about and that they want to see regulated more often. Like the way that we have vape shops here in Villa Rica, there are some cities that have CBD shops on every corner, and citizens think that it's a problem too. So I also think that there's an oversight here, pulling apart. I would honestly say that a medical marijuana dispensary, I don't think that, do those exist right now in Georgia? Is that legal for medical Is there a medical marijuana license? I would have to research that.
I don't know that any license have been issued at this point.
Okay, so medical marijuana dispensaries, for instance, for instance, about somebody's personal views, somebody who believes that medical marijuana is effective, is useful in a medical context as prescribed by a doctor, as licensed by a doctor, may not have a problem with those being close to urgent cares or hospitals, for instance. If you're going to a hospital to meet with your doctor to obtain a medical marijuana license, then maybe people do want it to be easier to move from there to what they would consider a pharmacy, a pharmaceutical supplier, in the context of medical marijuana. And this is just to say that, like, I think that there are changes coming to Georgia law that are going to necessitate pulling apart these terms and also covering the gap that is like CBD licensure and CBD stores, in addition to vape shops here. So I agree, like wholeheartedly agree that the people that I've talked to who lived here personally agree. There are a lot of vape shops in this town, and we need to like figure out how to stem the tide of new vape shops coming into to retail districts. I feel like there's still a lot of potential research to be done that can really help us craft a policy here that takes us into the future to where, if we've handled the issue of vape shops, for instance, that we're not seeing all of these vape shops turn into like CBD dispensaries. Because I don't think any of us really want to see that.
So then, we could, we could table it if you want me to
I
add.
was just about to make that motion.
Yeah. I try to be,
There's no public hearing required.
proactive. If you want to suggest that we table it and then, I know you mentioned to add CBD, and that sort of thing, then we can do that. But, this gets a conversation started in terms of, kind of the direction that, I guess the higher ups kind of want to see the zoning ordinance go. And so, I take the suggestions and I not run with it, but, craft with the help of Kevin. He's been immensely helpful. And then, come up with something, and then, you all want to. And I was going to say, like you did last time, if you want to email me too, after you've had a chance to kind of look at it, if you want to provide additional discussions, then yeah, you can email those to me, and then, we can make a motion to table it to the March meeting, or maybe further out.
Well, I think we need to do it sooner than later. There is a moratorium currently, so we need to address it. So I'd suggest send what your concerns are to Nina. And, currently, the way our ordinance reads now, we allow some of these uses within C2. So let her know, do you like that, or do you want it in more areas or no areas? I mean, that's the kind of feedback she needs in order to draft the ordinance.
Thank you, Nina, for continuing to work on this tricky issue.
You're welcome. I have other, policies and that I'm working on too, and so just especially, this moratorium gives us time to kind of, since we're not actively accepting any applications for development. This does give us a chance to look at the ordinance, kind of pick things apart, see what's working, see what's outdated, see what could need additional wordsmithing and stuff like that. So I appreciate the feedback as well.
Nina, two things. Well, this one's actually for Kevin, or if you know. When does the moratorium end? When does it run through?
It's 90 days.
Okay. And then the second thing, could we get some examples of jurisdictions sent to us that we could review?
Sure.
That would be helpful.
Sure.
On both ends of the spectrum.
Thank you. That's all I have for my presentation.
Yeah, I think the only ordinances you're going to see are restrictive ordinances.
Mm-hmm.
They're either silent or they restrict it severely.
Yeah, so we're just trying to find a path somewhere in the middle, but it's the will of the people that we listen to feedback and stuff. Because you know, residents may make a complaint about something and then it'll kind of get bumped up to me and then, okay, now you need to do an ordinance about it and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I really appreciate you guys' feedback.
You said 90 days. Is it 90 days from the last council meeting?
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
you're
Is it
welcome.
90 days or 180 days?
90.
90.
Yeah, that was the compromise. It was, because it was initially,
The
180.
The last moratorium was 90 days. Was the vape shop a 90-day one also?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Okay.
And then they're gonna, revisit, you know, bring it back in 90 days and,
Okay.
yeah, but it's for 90 days right now.
Do we need to have a public hearing?
Well, unless there's a motion to table it,
Okay.
you've discussed a motion.
Would
Was
anyone
was
like
the
to
motion
make a
actually made?
motion?
I would like to make a motion to table this issue.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
And that's to the
Aye.
March meeting.
Yes.
Can I say something too before there's a motion?
To close it out?
Um, we had a staff meeting, about something last week, and the city manager asked about some additional training. So could y'all have y'all been to the 101 class at least? Or done
I
it
am
online?
a third of the way in it.
Okay. I just kind of wanted to know where you are, to know what type of training would be helpful for you, or, you know, I think this is a good group. You're asking good questions. You're giving good feedback. So if there's a particular area you would like me to prepare, you know, a short training, and when we have a short meeting, we could tag onto the end of it, let me know. You know, I think I did a big, wide, just touched on everything that might come before you, but if you want some more focused or more attention on some particular things, like what we've been discussing tonight would be, those uses were permitted by a conditional use permit, which is kind of a different animal. And one thing Sean and I have talked about was his report. You know, maybe we talk about how to read his report and why he does it the way he does it, because what he does is he actually goes through the ordinance and says, you know, our ordinance requires X, Y, and Z, and in my review of this application, and then he addresses X, Y, and Z. We get before council, and you know, a lot of the public hearings, there are questions where people clearly do not understand what a conditional use permit is. It's not, you know, if he recommends approval on a conditional use permit, it's not because he likes the use. It's because he applied the ordinance to the application and it met the criteria in the ordinance. So it's not that he approves it or doesn't approve it. He doesn't get into his personal opinion as to the project itself. It's just whether or not they.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the objectivity, by the way.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I just want to add to kind of dovetail with what Kevin was saying. It might be useful also to go over the comp plan, because the comp plan is the governing document. And we basically, when Sean does a report, he takes a project and measures it against the comp plan. Is it compatible? Does it support the comp plan and that sort of thing, all the sections? And it also goes into how it supports that, you know. And so I think it's a good idea, because a lot of people don't get into the weeds in terms of the comp plan, but that is, you know, not only a state requirement to have a comp plan and it's updated every 5 years, but it's also, we have to look at projects and make sure that they're germane to, you know, the comp plan. So when he brings me a project, you know, or says, hey, we have application in for this, you know, he knows to go through the comp plan to see what it satisfies, with respect to the comp plan, because we want to make sure, I mean, that's our saving grace. So if anyone challenges that document, basically is, I don't want to say our legal defense, but basically that's how our decisions are made.
Yeah.
And so we try to remain as neutral as possible. But if a Trader Joe's comes in, you know, I'll be cheering. I'm kidding.
When will the comp plan be updated next?
You know, we just adopted a comp
Yeah.
plan, so it's a while, but that doesn't mean we can't update it as things change. So
I feel like it would be beneficial if we all had some kind of meeting and went over the
Yes,
comp plan, so
I-
we knew
yes.
what goal we were working
Yeah.
towards.
Right.
And I think based on what's happened in the last 2 years, there are some updates needed to the comp plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can work that in an agenda at some point. It's online, so there's a link, I think, on the city's website to the comp plan.
There is,
It's-
but it
it's
may
pre-
help to have Deanna here and like walk us through
Sure.
it.
It's a pretty thick document, but
Yeah.
it's not, it doesn't take a long, I mean, there's pictures in it and other things, so you can get through it fairly quick, but it's a fairly thick document when you go to print it out, so.
I also, I don't know if this is a possibility or not. I know that these meetings are designed for public hearing and to keep a record. Is it possible for us to also have working meetings? I don't care if it's broadcast, but I would just like to sit around a round table with documents in front of us that we're passing around. Maybe this is like me as a very tactile learner, but some of these things I would like to sit around a table with my fellow commissioners, with folks who work for the city, and look at these things and have a conversation instead of like this kind of like 2-panel conversation back and forth that we have here. And also I think that, I think that maybe we could have gotten to a point where we had something here that we approved if we had a working session as well, to talk about language, things like this, right? Maybe at a round table where we can throw ideas back and forth, where we can do some research in real time. Because I know Andrew is up here looking at different ordinances used by other different cities while we're looking at this too, and we all come into this with doing the research at home after we receive the packet. But I feel like if there was more conversation and opportunity for collaboration, here's what I like about the city of Roswell's rule, here's what I like about the city of ordinance around vape shops, and then come to some kind of consensus where it's not, we're presenting it, we're giving feedback, and then we're presenting it again. I don't know if that's a possibility, but to make just kind of maybe a little bit of a radical suggestion.
It is possible. I mean, we do that with council maybe quarterly, that we meet different places. As long as y'all meet, if there's a quorum of you present, it's subject to the Open Meetings Act. So, we have to post an agenda, we advertise it, public's welcome to come, but we can meet in a more of a conference room type setting where we can have discussions, and we can do that. We don't schedule a lot of that because you guys are volunteers and you're volunteering your time, and we don't want to take advantage of that. But if that's something you want to do, we can work on your schedules and find something. So.
Yeah, not to volunteer more of the time of my fellow commissioners here, just to add a suggestion that
Sure.
if we all are in agreement, maybe we can make happen.
And I just want to add to, you mentioned the, you like, maybe we take something that we see the city of Roswell or something like that. I just wanted to preface that line of thought. Kevin mentioned we all, borrow from other jurisdictions, but as long as we're looking at jurisdictions that are like in terms of population and that sort of thing, because I've had situations where people will I'm reading reports that, maybe a consultant presented, and I'm like, this is San Francisco. And you're talking about, walking and parking ordinances. I'm like, this is when I, worked for Gwinnett. And I'm like, this little town that you're talking about, city you're talking about, it can't compare to Toronto or San Francisco. So those are just the things that when we compare other cities and stuff like that, we try to look for cities that are comparable in terms of size and demographics and that sort of thing, just so we're not, way out of the park or way out in left field. So just a thought. If you do see, an ordinance that you like the language, just keep in mind, to make it as comparable to Villa Rica as you can.
Yeah. I would also like to learn more about like how that research is done. Like even if I don't know if this is a possibility, but even shadowing somebody for a day as you're developing some of the plans that are appearing before us, not to have any input on that, but really just to see the process.
My door's always open.
like to make a motion to adjourn?
I would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Well, can you make a motion to table the?
They did.
We did, and we voted unanimously.
That's right, you did, sorry.
Yep,
I'll second.
All in favor?
unanimous.